Alright, Chapter 6. The Simple Point Count System. Many readers of the first edition Beat the Dealer were able to discover themselves with the point count system. The system were not presented in the first edition because the needed calculation had not been completed. The point count system will be valuable to both beginner and expert alike. They're especially useful then with some of the most recent casino countermeasures against successful system players. Chapter presents a simple version of point count, of the point count. You'll also hear the story of how one point counter won $50,000 in Puerto Rican casinos and single-handedly forced to change their rules. Simple point count system when the deck is when the deck is poor and high cards. Table 4-1. The chapter 4 includes that the casino has the advantage. When the deck is poor on low cards, table 4-1 indicates the player has the advantage. This suggests the system in which the player should somehow measure whether the deck excessive high cards is good, low cards is bad. Bet accordingly. Simple method is to count low cards as positive 1 as they are seen in fall, and to count high cards as negative 1 as they fall. 7, 8s, and 9s are not counted. The cards are not seen on not counted with one full deck. Typical rules: the count starts at 0. For example, if the cards of full deck are seen in order ace, 2, 3, 6, 9, 5, 4, 7, the point values are negative 1, plus 1, plus 1, plus 1, 0, plus 1, plus 1, 0. The total number of the points given in this term number will use, for example, the cards in order to describe the above point totals before any of the cards dealt are 0 after ace, negative 1 after 2, 0 after 3, positive 1 after 6, positive 2 after 9, positive 2 after 8, 5, positive 3 after 4, positive 4 after 7, positive 4. To play a simple point counts, all that you do is keep the track of all of the total points seen. Players' cards use the basic strategy. If the players your cards using the basic strategy, if the point count total is 0 or minus when you make your bet, only at 1 unit. If it's plus, best bet any units of the point as the point count total. Example above: if there's a time to be just after it has been seen 6, you should have the bet 2 units. If you have not just seen 5, then you should have bet 3 units, and if you have just seen 4 or 7, then you should bet 4 units. Otherwise, you should have the bet of 1 unit. Notice when all the 4 or 5s are gone, the point count system total on average plus 4. Point count calls for a unit bet in this situation, so the point count and the 5 system agree. Point count and 5 system agree that it is good to have all the 5s out. The advantage of the point count is that it finds many of the more favorable situations than the 5 system. It finds them earlier, and you win several times as fast. You should now stop reading and take the time out to practice simple point counting system if you're possible with a friend to deal to you. Play slow enough that you do not make mistakes. Do this even if you're ridiculously slow at first. As you practice, you will gradually speed up play with chips. This will add a touch of realism, and it will give you an idea of how rapidly you will win whenever you're playing simple point count accurately at a normal speed. Feel quite comfortable with it. Read on refinements. After you're completely comfortable with the point count on, there are several refinements which you make stronger. If the point count is positive 5, the deck is nearly complete. The deck is not as rich in high cards as if it were, for example, with a point count of 5, only 5 cards over the left. They are all higher cards. They are all higher cards. So the advantage and disadvantage of the player depends not only on the point count system, but also on how many cards are left. If we take into account that we can play more precisely, the correct way to do this is to divide the point total by the number of the decks of the left. The number will give you still better than 1 point total to use the better betting purposes. For example, the point count of positive 1, only half deck remains. We can bet 1 plus a half a unit, or equal to 1 times 2 over 1. 2 units instead of only 1 unit. Made it more important, they correspond adjusting point count on the player against casino using 2 or more decks. If 2 deck game with a point count is for almost complete decks, but it should be 4 plus for a 2 unit bet, 6 plus for a 3 unit bet, and so on. However, once the 2 decks have been played down, 1 deck of the betting should be the same for 1 deck. Later, advanced point count system high-low strategy. You will learn to keep the precise count of the remaining cards to allow you to compute our bets still more accurate. Exactly. It's also a true strategy changes the point of a count. For an extreme example, the only low cards to the left of the player should always draw on the hard 15. Since he could draw almost a 6, he could never bust and draw mostly improve with his hand. Roughly speaking, when a point count is plus and stands more, double down often, split more often. When point count minus or draw more often, double down less often, split less often. The deal will be covered in Chapter 7 with the background and strategy chain to describe the Puerto Rican adventure of the Solomon greater than $50,000 win. Henry Morgan, I visited Puerto Rico after the first edition of the Beat the Dealer. I went out and appeared with I got a secret. My secret was, of course, I could rapidly, consistently win at the casino and blackjack under usual playing conditions. But Gary Moore, moderate over the program, had a secret for the panelists too. His secret with Henry Morgan was to try out the system in Puerto Rican casinos with a bankroll of $200. Henry was to report back in the program following week. I decided we got down to and see the Puerto Rican casinos like Messer with the M&M, two young New Yorker entrepreneurs, almost promoters of an board of $25,000 challenge match, well-known Las Vegas casino bankroll my play. I spent the enjoyable afternoon. Henry Morgan with the New York office. I've got a secret attempting to teach him the point count lead jokes were so much more interesting himself, so uninterested to dry routine of the training that I settled down for showing him and I main parts of the basic strategy. Hopefully would manage to break even. Profits would go to charity, of course. I stayed with the master of the M&M in the luxurious lot coach. He had a telephone hotel. This is about 1 in San Juan, but I have casinos. Henry settled. Elsewhere, casinos are aware of generally 8 p.m., 4 a.m. The N and I arrived for the midnight. Got settled, played in a couple hours for the got the feel for things. M could have several deals. M had come in several days earlier. He had won $1,000 after so far. He showed us around and soon became apparent that there were significant differences between Puerto Rican game and Nevada game. First, the Puerto Rican casino with the government were government regulated. That meant the official printed rules for the game of the blackjack were posted on the walls of each casino in plain sight. With the same with the true with the main procedure. Casino could not suddenly change the rules on me. They had in Nevada. You may recall the example in the test of the 10-count system. Harold's Club shuffled up on me. Another club refused to sell me larger size chip. The two other card games were generally played with roulette and craps, and also had the rules regulation posted. But the rules of the games were uniform. Few options were allowed, but several casinos were visited. As an additional protection, both customers and casinos government man with a duty in casino playing an area with at all times any reasonable effort was made to inform the patrons of the fact of the contract, the situation. In Nevada, the blackjack game itself was dealt face down from 2 decks. This card was dealt from dealing a box for a shoe. This makes it a slight hand of the card trickery often encountered in Nevada, but is seldom noticed for the chapter of the 10 details. Most likely, do you think that you can't be cheated by dealing box? You can, as we will see shortly. But variety of the cheating method, the fewer and the chance of the catching are higher, so definitely discourage cheating. Further, discharge cheating with 2 deck different color backs with 1 red back deck, 1 blue deck were generally used. The top of the dealing box were most open. You could see the color of the back of the top of the card. If you wanted to close, sometimes also see the color over the back of the card dealt to you. The dealer hands often covered the card as well during the instant before the hand was turned face of the color couldn't be determined. If you saw the red card got the blue one, you would know you were cheated. Another nice feature of the Puerto Rican casinos is no liquor is served in them. Favorite device of the Nevada casinos is to apply with the customers free of the liquor, often deliberately to impair the player's judgment and remove his inhibition. It works, and I've seen a well-headed drunk you play employs $1 in an hour, flinging thousands across blackjack tables in a few minutes. I have seen poor drunks write checks they couldn't cover the last. Perhaps the saddest chases and Puerto Rican casinos will serve unlimited snacks, sandwiches, cokes, etc. Atmosphere and quiet, relaxed, and evening dress as rule. Alright, blackjack rules allow the player to play with the many initial hands before the player splitting there with the empty place for the seventh place for the player alone. Can play 7 hands at a time, and the greater the number of hands per hour, the greater the profit was from the system. Used was generally played with the way along with the up to 7 hands. The rule were like typical rules of Chapter 2 with the one important exemption, but the double down was restricted with totals of hard at 111. The only question with the casino said with the 12 to 21 could be counted as 11 and double down on, and printed rules seemed to be implied also. They were quietly amused with the question, wondered what fools would ever double down on soft 21. However, for example, the double down on a soft 21 is the best place. Suppose you're keeping track of the total points, total remaining cards, and the total remaining aces. Suppose you have been dealt an 8-10 and the dealer shows a 10. Suppose you have the point total of the positive 3, therefore these cards left with no aces left in there, 3 cards left unseen. All are 10s. The dealer, a whole card is a 10. He has 20. He can't draw. He will win 1 and half the times the original bet with a natural or blackjack. If you stop now, but if you double down, you will get another 10 for a total ordinary 21, which 21 beats the dealer's 20. And you will walk away twice your original bet instead of only 1 and 1/2 times. Admittedly, this is expert play you would not expect him to do if learning only simple pinpoint counting. For once you've mastered Chapter 7, there's a good chance you will be capable of such feats. The point of the story of the precision play with the Thorp was beyond imagination of the casino. Personally, we met. There was the other important rule. Puerto Rico, the betting limits are $1 to $50 compared to $1 to $500. Most larger Nevada established maximum rate of Puerto Rico would only be about 1/10 of the Nevada. So M winnings of the 1,000 in 3 to 4 days correspond to the win of Nevada, multiplying all bets by $10,000. After even the morning up, we turned in at 5 a.m. One of the great strains of little ventures readjusting the buy schedule reverse hours the gamblers had to keep. Entering the Sullen. Before we arrived at the M, had to notice the system player who we have in the great success, playing every night and winning steadily. But he and M were acquainted. Casino personal nickname the Solomon, produced Solomon with a stress of the second syllable. Inspired with the first edition, beat the dealer he had begun to play about 6 months earlier. Stick with the $200. I said in the book the state would give the player a 99% chance to go on win indefinitely. The only 1% chance of the extreme run of the bad luck would ever wipe out with the stake plus accumulated winnings. Solomon took me at my word, got to work. He found that the 10 count was too laborious, and he discovered himself with a simple point count system refinements. When we met, he originally had $200. Now he's grown to $20,000. Solomon put a splendid effect of the show that he would come into the casino spot, empty table to purchase several $1,000s worth of chips, which he stacked in several of the great irregular columns with up to a foot or two in height. Columns of chips located with the monstrous super kings and checkered that scattered with the greatest columns of the chips all over the layout, like peace and games, but also managed to scatter so that they effectively blocked anyone else from playing. While he played, Solomon kept this disarming and amusing line of patter with nearby casino personnel. The evening after I arrived with the recent copies of Life magazine reached Puerto Rico, they left them the 12-page story with the pictures about them, beat with the dealer, with the book had moved onto the New York Times nonfiction bestseller list. I was recognized by the casino personnel, but the after closed casino was shut down at 4 a.m. M and I had a snack and come some home over the people from one of the casinos. We learned that Solomon had the winning regularly for several months, but no one knew the true extent of his winnings. I asked why he was called Solomon, and we told him that it was because he was like a fish that swam upstream. But we'll get him in the end. Casino boss said, we'll call in Larga. In the long run, he said, we'll call it in the long run. I saw that Solomon later told me that Solomon was a Puerto Rican slang for jerk. The casino view of the Solomon was a jerk with a further reinforcement. He had played someone in the hands of the end of the deck, and parent with a recklessness of the disgust, would sometimes hit blackjack and give him again until the bust is likewise. Yeah. 8 time. Alright. Sometimes it's blackjack and again until busted. Likewise, pair tens with a pair of aces. Otherwise, oftentimes was standing with a pair of deuces. Sure, this is madness. The casino personally would say to me again and again, I could only smile. Say certainly would be difficult for them that can understand how much playing could lead to anything but a disaster. I pointed out with a basic strategy of 5 strategy with the 10 strategies all forbid such places. What Solomon was paid far from it. Solomon was even the end play with the described in the first edition and also chapter 8. Let's start with examining with the Puerto Rican casino and dealt with the 2 decks all the way to the end. Last described the 2 decks was pulled back unplayed. However, the supposed note with the symbol point with the count is -8. And there are roughly about 16 cards left to be played. Recall now that the Solomon has blacked off the table for the greater stakes of chips, since there are 7 places he can play 1 of 7 hands on each deal. However, he now takes 4 hands to bet $1 on each hand. Remember, the deck is bad. He and the dealer between the deck get the 10 cards on the deal. Suppose you add the Solomon's first hand of 10-10, the second hand to 8-10. The rest of the smile cards he hits 10-10 until it busts. He does the same with 8-10 and possibly he draws the smaller card hands without busting any of them. The deck is exhausted. These cards are reshuffled. The 10-10 and the ace-10 cards of the tree shuffle the group, and the table is covered with small cards which are not. The next deal comes of the shoe with a poor and known low cards of Solomon with a $50 card and per hand advantage for the advantage will have the average advantage down to the end of the 2 decks at the time of the playing used to extend the control of the competition in the next shoe. Solomon deliberately lost some of the 1 bets he could with some of the $50 bets if the operator decided he was a jerk. We properly adopted Solomon the tactics after several evenings of the casino. We see him in the 1 or 2, some of the times 3 master players march up with the empty table just after the opening time. The masters would cover the table with greatly irregular towers of the chips that began to play 1 of 7 hands at the time. Puerto Rican dealers were very fast for the average, much faster than Las Vegas dealers, in my opinion, yet each of us could play still fast with a faster dealer while we were supposedly counting Murad cards and mentally computing it at a great rate. At the end of the shoot one evening, I had been losing for an hour with my dealer 10 over the 7th hand of the various 12 of the eve of the variation point count on 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then positive 1, 8, and 0s, 9, and 10s, or aces are a -1. Which they follow the deck has run out with the deal with the point count was 0, therefore the unseen with the uncard, which for the dealer's whole card was 0, but the dealer had an 8 in the hole, has a total of 18. The player has a hands developed with the reshuffle. I had hit several totals for the hard 17, then busted. Dealer looked up scornfully, saying to me with a laugh, so you count cards, amigo? Why, ha ha ha, I'll bet you, even if I know what I've got under here. A couple of the other dealers grinned, and so I said, why, you have an 8 under there. The dealer laughing summoned the several other dealers, and the pit boss explained contemptuously with the American expert said that they had an 8 in the hole. The babble uncomplimentary remarks the Spanish passed back and forth. I was tired, almost about ready to break. I had made an occasional accounting error over the last hour. There was a chance I would be wrong. Better for me if I was probably. Then the dealer turned over the whole card. It was an 8 in the babble. Spanish raged anew. We played for 5 nights. During the time, our apple fluctuated rather violently, considering the small bet size at one time and a couple of $1,000 behind. This made a redouble our playing effort during these few days. I was playing at a peak. I would count the aces points and remaining cards of the aces, casino tens, and nothing. Sometimes now just 3, but 4 or 5 count qualities. I was making perhaps 1 or 2 counting errors the evening. Yet I was the evening difficult of pulling ahead. Looking for cheating and found only one into the M and I were playing with the same table of one of the crowded clubs. La Canacha, other dealers seemingly extraordinary clumsy. The coup cards keeping the trying with the come from the side of the dealing box. They would jam the wood fumble around. Finally got tired of this and moved it to another table. The box was moved, and our table would move it again. The box again. I asked to examine the deal box. We summoned the government. Man, nothing appeared to be wrong, but we knew the shoes of the deal seconds had been there. They were commonly used, for example, if the Fario played with the old web, the clever mechanism of the conceal with the side panel with the witch, so that shoe on the one side of the panel was hollowed out with the one long side of the panel with the 2 short end panel with the tab, both ends of the panel with a chip sound, same with the taps with a large panel that gave it a higher tone, but the lowest physical tone that should have been lower with the tested other apparently identical dealing box alongside panels gave out the expected low tone. Conclusion, we'd avoid this club from now on. Why didn't we ask for the boxes confiscated for the matter of the investigated, mainly because we had unable to communicate with the government man? He didn't seem to understand English. He seemed to know that we were driving. Of course, an effective action would have been initiated here on the spot, which the evidence of the hand would have disappeared did the chance of making an effective complaint. We ended our stay with a joint win of a little under $2,000. We barely covered with the cost of a luxurious vacation for four, with a would correspond with a win about $20,000 in Nevada, which is a higher betting limit, but we should all have won much more. Playing conditions were ideal. Dealing down with the last card enabled us to use and play very strongly. Also, the same amount of the time Solomon piled up 7,000 with play. It was not strong in as ours. We found very little difference between our winnings that we use and point count when we use 10 count. An interesting idea for end play.